let me share with you one important story that we find in the Buddhist tradition that can help us to understand how adversities can turn into be opportunities. And then with virya, how we can be strong without being influenced by the circumstances, but facing those circumstances very skillfully and turn them to be opportunities. So once you know that, you don't become fearful when you meet with an adversity. You will use it as opportunity. Okay, oh, another chance for me to look into myself and change and find new ways to do it. Okay, so this story comes from not from the suttas, but from Jataka. I think we are familiar with the Jataka stories. So some of the Jatakas are the story of the previous lives of the Buddha. When the Buddha was trained to become an enlightened one, and in his previous lives, he have developed so many other qualities. We call them perfections or paramis, the different qualities that help them to develop the enlightened, the skill sets that a fully enlightened being needs to teach, to help others. So one of such stories called VANNUPATHA JATAKA. This is the name of the story, VANNUPATHA JATAKA. And this is a very important story that we should tell our children. And this actually, in fact, this is the second Jataka story in the whole collection. In Jataka, we have close to 500 stories. Not all of them are actually, all the story of the previous lives of the Buddha, because there can be, some folk stories also came to this collection. But some of them are definitely stories of the life of the previous lives of the Buddha. But anyway, these stories are teaching us so much important lessons. And this is one example. Okay, this is an example how the Bodhisattva, the Buddha in his previous lives, encouraged his team to use virya to go beyond the circumstances that they faced with. According to this story, in many years, many years ago, the Buddha was a caravan leader. He was a caravan leader, and he's a kind of merchant. So he's bringing goods from one area to another area. So he had many caravans. So in his journey to a new city, he has to cross a desert. So when he crossed the desert, he had to prepare for that. So they also carry the goods, but they also carry what they need to consume along the way. So when he decided the length of the journey and also the length of the desert, and then he decided how much water and how much other requisites they should bring along with them. And so because they also need to carry like goods to sell, and so they were quite careful, how many caravans that they want to devote to these, basic needs. So they only brought what they really need. They didn't, maybe a little bit extra, but they didn't use. They want to bring as many merchandise as possible. So therefore, they only bring what is necessary for them. So then they were going to this new city, and they had to cross this desert. And then, so in this, usually they travel in the desert in the night. The reason that in the daytime they can't travel is too hot. The sand is too hot, the weather is too hot. They only travel in the evening, in the night. So when you travel in the night, you can't see anything. Of course, even the daytime in the desert, you will not be able to see many things. But there was a system, how they did. There was a person called maybe a desert pilot. The person traveling in the first caravan of the line of caravans, and he will look at the stars, the constellation of the stars, and then he will decide the direction that they should travel based on the position of the stars. And because in desert, everything will be the same, right? So you can travel anywhere. So he will look at the stars and will decide the direction that you need to go. And he's the kind of, the person who's telling the road, the pilot, so to speak. Maybe in modern day language, we can call it maybe GPS, right? We use the GPS. So ancient time, they also had a GPS, their own version of GPS. Of course, nowadays our GPS receiving signals from satellites, but those days, those human GPS, they were receiving signals from the stars. Means they're looking at the position of the stars and they will decide the direction that they want to travel. So here, this pilot, the caravan, and the pilot has a very important role. So they were traveling, and they had to travel a few days in the desert. In the daytime they will rest, and the night they will travel. So now they have traveled quite a bit of the distance, and they are almost, going to reach the city the next day. They only had to travel one night. So the pilot got so relaxed, and he is so happy he's going to reach. So of course, after many days of staying up in the night, he also feels sleepy, and he also got relaxed towards the end. So at that night, he fall asleep, and the oxen who is carrying the first caravan didn't receive guidance from this pilot, because he was fallen asleep. And so the oxen just walk as he likes, and then he actually accidentally he turned around, as when kind of creating like a circle. He turned around, he's kind of walking in the other direction, and the pilot was on a sleep, and the caravan make a full turn, and throughout the night they have traveled to the opposite direction. When it's morning time comes, the pilot woke up and then realized that actually they have traveled to a different direction, kind of more to the middle of the desert rather than away from the desert. Now they are in a big trouble. The reason, the water and the other needs that they brought along with them was only sufficient to the amounts of the days that it takes for them to cross the desert. And sometimes when we reach to at the end of the desert, they will even throw away certain things in order to give more ease to the oxen. So now mainly they have a problem with the water. If they don't have water, they can't survive. So they can't survive. Of course, these oxen need water. The people need water. They can't. They are in a big trouble in the middle of the desert because of the one mistake. Now, Bodhisattva is the leader of this. Is the caravan leader. He's the leader. So everybody is so depressed. Everybody is so panic. What to do. We are in big trouble. But Bodhisattva, they will use his wisdom, use his mindfulness. Remember that is one of the two of the five faculties. He didn't get panic. He used his mindfulness to become aware of his own mind. He became aware how the people behave. And then he was using his wisdom, his discernment. Okay, don't be panic. Let's try to find a way to get this out. This is an adversity. This is a challenge. We are in trouble, but we don't have to be victims of this. Let me think about what we can do. So Bodhisattva want to look around, any sign of water. Who will believe that there'll be water in the desert, right? But he was just looking around, and he was traveling to different directions just by foot and try to find. And then he found a small bush, very small bush, like grass, a small bush. And that was a sign for him. He decided, okay, if there's the grass is growing here, the type of grass that grow in the desert, there should be some source of water here. So he called all the people, his men, and asked them, okay, we will make our effort, and this area, we should have some source of water. That is why this plant is growing, even it's a very, a small plant. And so they all got together, but they didn't have enough strength because they didn't have water. But Bodhisattva encouraged them, okay, don't get discouraged, let's try our best. So get all your instrument and go get all your spades and other things. And so now they are digging a well right in the middle of the desert. They keep digging and digging and digging. They dig so deep, but still they didn't find water. Some are already discouraged. But the Bodhisattva, he was not discouraged. Encourage everyone, okay, please go ahead, let's do it. So one by one, the people are being exhausted. They had no power, no energy. Without water, how you can work so hard? But still, others were kept digging and digging and digging. They were able to dig the hole to such a deep level, and they went so deep until they find a solid rock on the bottom. All the efforts. They failed all the efforts that so many people put, being fully exhausted, and some even cannot move anymore because they're so exhausted. But after many hours of effort, they only found a rock. Now, everybody becomes so depressed, so discouraged, and there's no way that we are going to perish. But the Bodhisattva did not, give up. He used the virya. Okay, let me use the virya. And he went down to the hole and observed everything. And he found the solid rock. See, it was a solid rock. But he had the confidence, he had the confidence that if there was a grass, there should be some source of water. So he simply leaned down and put his ear to the rock. And then he was able to listen to the underground stream going underneath the rock. So his guess was not wrong. And then he asked a young man, please, young boy, please come here. And we all rely on you. I know that you're exhausted somewhat, but we need your energy now. Please use this spade, use this hammer, and we are all in your hand. Use all of your strength, all of your virya, and please break this rock. So with the encouragement of the Bodhisattva, this young man take the hammer and he uses all his strength and keep struck against the rock again and again. After a while, a piece of rock was broken, and the underneath current of water started to come out like a spring. And so they were almost about to give up, but then at the last moment, they was able to get the water because they did not give it up. So we have two important lessons to learn from this story. One is in earlier case, the desert pilot, he had the virya to cross all the way, but when he's almost reached the destination, he got so relaxed. He thought that there's only one more, last night, now it's easy. So he gave up the effort. Sometimes when we are almost about to reach our goal, when it is so easy, when there's no adversities, when it's so easy to achieve, we also get relaxed. And then, the problem happens. Of course, in recent researches, people have realized that many accidents happen, particularly in the US, within the last few miles of their destination. They may have to travel like 500 miles. They will be very careful. They will put effort, everything. But when you come to the last 10 miles, they get relaxed and they meet with, and most of the accidents has happened within the last few miles of their destination. It's very common, and that's what happened to this pilot. That's something we need to learn. When we are so close to achieve our goal, when everything is smooth, everything is nice, and we get too much relaxed, and we lose our effort, and we may not get the result. And the other case here, and everyone was digging the hole, putting all the effort, then they found the big obstacle, the rock. And then everybody tend to give it up. And when we meet with such a difficulty as obstacle, we also give it up. When it's too easy, we give it up. It becomes too relaxed. And when it's too difficult, also we give it up. But in both cases, we shouldn't give it up. We should have the virya. That's how the Bodhisattva guided everyone. And so with that effort of that young boy, that the pieces of rock was broken, it was like a spring, what is coming up, and everybody was able to, catch their thirst. All the oxen were treated well. And then what they did, they put a nice flag in that place, because then next time all the caravans coming on that direction, now they have a source of water. They have a well. So they met with an adversity, the difficult circumstance, they were almost perished. But because of the wisdom and mindfulness and virya, important virya, if they have the knowledge, but if they don't put the virya to dig the hole, dig the well, there'll be no result. So because of that virya, and they were able to create a source of water here, and then all the other caravans teams coming later had the source of water. So you can see how the adversity was transformed into an opportunity, and then to one's advantage. And this Jataka story was also told by the Buddha to a monk, and who who was ordained at the young age, and took the instruction from the Buddha and went to meditate in the forest. And after a while, he was not able to really, manage his defilements. His defilements so strong, and then finally he gave up his meditation. He came back, and he was so disappointed, and he was thinking that, I'm not strong enough, to destroy my defilements. And then Buddha reminded him, and young monk, and in many years ago, you were the strong boy, you were the strong man who helped so many people with your strength. And Buddha told him this story. And in this story, you saved so many people. I gave instruction to you, and you use your last drop of strength, and you save everyone. So go back to meditate again, and you can do it. And Buddha encouraged the young monk with this story. So that's virya. That's the virya.